Hey Opties! Remember we've talked about vertical angles in our notes video. Today we're going to do some practice. Remember that vertical angles are angles that are opposite each other, these or these, in intersecting lines. So lines that cross each other. So let's take a look at number 1. A and C are vertical angles, so this is given information and we have our picture to go along with it, and we can tell, okay, well we've got two intersecting lines and they're opposite each other, so we can verify they're vertical angles. The measure of angle D is 125 degrees. What is the measure of angle A, angle B, and angle C? So we want to find 3 different things here. So let's go ahead and fill in our picture with our given information. The measure of angle D is 125 degrees. So let's go ahead and write it, 125 degrees. Remember that the vertical angles theorem says that vertical angles are always congruent to each other, meaning they have the same measure. So, which angle is congruent to angle D? Well, that would be angle B because it's the vertical angle to angle D. It's the angle that's opposite angle D. So we've already got the measure of angle D. That's just going to be 125 degrees. So that's good. Let's write that over here so now we've got it. The measure of angle B is 125 degrees. Now let's think, how are we going to find A and C? Well, we know A and C equal each other because they're also vertical angles, so let's go ahead and make a note of that. Angle A is congruent to angle C, so the measure of angle A equals the measure of angle C. So we know this, we have to figure out what actual number it is. Think about this. This is line, let's say this is line M. Well, A and B make up line M, okay? Angle A and angle B make up line M. So because of that, they form a straight angle, aka, so also known as, they are a linear pair. A linear pair means that they sum to 180 degrees, also known as they are supplementary angles. So that's another thing we know. The measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B is 180 degrees. So what is the measure of angle B? We already know that. That's 125 degrees. So we're substituting that. And we now want to find the measure of angle A. So to solve that, all we have to do is subtract 125 from both sides. So let's write this out. The measure of angle A equals the measure of angle C. And that's what this says over here. We could also write these as capital letters instead to go along with this. So the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle C because they're vertical angles. And that's going to be 180 minus 125 degrees. So that's all we have to do. We just have to solve that and we're going to be done with this problem. The measure of angle A equals the measure of angle C. And what's 180 minus 125? That's going to be 55 degrees. I would probably solve that. I probably do. I'm at 125, 135, 145, 155, 165, 175. I got 50. And from 75 to 80, I got 5, so 55. Okay, so we're done with that one. We've got B, A, and C. So we used basically 2 things of knowledge. One, that vertical angles are congruent to get angle B. And another one is that a linear pair are supplementary, so we just subtracted from 180 to get the measure of angle A. And then again, use the vertical angles theorem to know what C was, which was the same as A. Now let's take a look at some practice with algebra. Number 2 tells us that angle A and angle C are vertical angles, so we know they're congruent. The measure of angle A is 3x, so let's write that in our picture. 3x, it's A. And the measure of angle C is 2x plus 10, so let's write that in our picture. For space reasons, I'm going to draw my little arrow, 2x plus 10. Okay, find the value of x. Well, what do we know about A and C? They're vertical angles, so they're congruent. so their measures are equal. So let's set these expressions equal to each other. 3x equals 2x plus 10. Now we can solve for x. Subtract 2x from both sides. And we get x is, since that becomes 0, x is 10. So we've done part A. Part B says find the measure of angle D. Okay, so let's think here. Angle D is going to be paired with either A or C to make a linear pair. So what we're going to do is figure out what the measure of angle A or angle C is. Now I say or because you could substitute your x into 3x or 2x plus 10, but you'll still get the same thing because they're equivalent. Then you're just going to subtract that value from 180 because D plus C, those angle measures are 180, but it's also true for the measure of angle A and D together. So I say we go for 3x. It just looks a little bit easier. It's just a little bit smaller, but it doesn't matter. So the measure of angle A is 3 times x, which is 3 times 10, which is 30 degrees. So let's use this info. We want to do the measure of angle D, which is going to be 180 because it forms a linear pair with angle A, minus 30 degrees. So it's 150 degrees. You can tell by looking like it's pretty much to scale. Angle A does look like it's about 30. It's definitely acute, right? Then angle D is definitely some sort of obtuse angle. Let's take a look at our final practice problem with algebra. Number 3, angle D and angle B are vertical angles, so we know they're congruent. The measure of angle A is 4x minus 5 degrees, so let's write that. I'll do my arrow for space reasons, 4x minus 5. And the measure of angle B is 10x plus 45, so we'll write that. Got some space here. Okay, we've filled in our picture with our given information. Find the value of x. Okay, so we know A and C are equivalent, but we don't have any expression for C, so we have to think about what's true between angle A and angle B. Well, they form a linear pair, so if you add them up, they equal 180. So let's do that. 4x minus 5 plus 10x plus 45 equals 180 degrees. So let's combine like terms on the left-hand side of the equation. 4x plus 10x is 14x. Let's go ahead and combine our constant terms on the left-hand side of the equation. Negative 5 plus 45 is 40. And that equals 180. Let's subtract 40 from both sides. That will become a 0. 14x equals 180 minus 40, which is 140. Let's carry this over here to complete it, just for room purposes. 14x equals 140. We'll divide both sides by 14. And x is 10. And those 14 simplified to 1. So we've got x. Part B says find the measure of angle D. Well, we know that angle D is congruent to angle B because they're vertical angles. So let's take the expression we have for angle B and substitute our x value in for that to find the measure of angle D. So let's make sure we're writing out how we know we're going to do this for angle D. So we'll write the measure of angle B equals the measure of angle D, and that equals this expression, 10x plus 45. And now let's substitute our x value. 10 times 10 plus 45. Well, 10 times 10 is 100, plus 45 is 145. And since we're talking about angles, it's degrees. So that's the measure of angle D. And we're done. That's it for vertical angles practice. See you all next time.